Number 6, we now want to ask ownership questions. And so we really now want to kind of start driving this to the finish line. We're ready, just about ready to close the deal. And we just kind of want to find out where they're at with it. So I love asking ownership questions. And we have a great example here on the document. I'm just going to read it for you. It says, I'm sure that with your volume of business, this program is going to save you thousands of dollars over the course of our relationship, since you'll no longer be paying the percentage and per item fees for credit card processing. Because of this, I know most of our new clients really want us to rush the installation. We usually promise a time frame of 10 days after the paperwork is completed to get everything set up and tested for you. Does that time frame work, or should we try to rush delivery on this? So notice what I'm doing here. I'm not technically closing the deal, and this is part of staying really assumptive. I haven't actually closed the deal at all. They haven't given me a yes. They just answered some questions for me. We've had a conversation, and now we're getting to the end, and I'm basically just saying, do you want me to rush delivery or not? And it's like, they didn't even say yes yet. So how they respond to this question is going to tell me a lot about where I'm at in the sales process. If they say, I think 10 days should be fine, well, then, you're good to go. You already got the sale. You start writing the paperwork up using the permission clause, which we'll talk about in the next video. Or if they say, well, I don't know for sure if we would move forward. I mean, if we did, I don't think we'd want to rush it. Then you're like, okay, they're really not like totally ready yet, So maybe then you want to go back to some questions and say, before we move forward, are there any other questions that you have for me about kind of how the program works or the details of implementation or anything like that? And so now you're going to get into their other sticky questions that you're going to want to answer and really explain everything. Be very honest, be very transparent. And this is where you're going to get into the part where experience is going to matter the most. This is where it's hard when you get started, because some people are like, they have a question and you don't know the answer to it because they have a very specific question for their business type. So you have to say, you know what, that is such a great question. I'm going to check on that and get back with you. And then you got to go back to your processing company, find out the answer to the question, So there's definitely that kind of, back and forth there. And you use those ownership questions at the end to kind of see where they're at. So I like to have 2 or 3 ownership questions, which again, these are questions that are usually alternate advance. But you're just asking them things like, now with this program, I'm trying to think of a good one. Maybe you don't do PIN debit with the program. So you might say, with this program, we normally don't do PIN debit. Now, if you decide to move forward, are you going to want us to enable PIN debit, or is that going to be an issue? And maybe you have that conversation, right? So there's many different ways you can have these conversations with the merchant, but you're going to have these questions lined up so you can kind of gauge by their answers how far along you are in the process, so that you don't go into a closing scenario before you know that you have somebody that's pretty much ready to go and interested. So once you do, you're ready to close the sale. And let's talk about, in the last video, the 3-step closing process that I've used for years that works great.